The story begins in Tshwane, South Africa, where Zuko, a former notorious assassin, is haunted by a recurring nightmare. In this dream, he vividly remembers an event from 2 years ago when he attacked a government official and stole a briefcase full of money. This memory continues to trouble him in the present day. The next day, the scene shifts to Vlottenberg, Cape Town, where President Matima seeks help from Molebogeng, the head of presidential intelligence. Reluctantly obeying Matima's orders, Molebogeng is tasked with capturing Johnny Klein, a former director of international relations. Klein intends to expose Matima's government corruption, posing a threat to his chances of re-election. Despite portraying himself as a leader against foreign influence, Matima's true character is marked by corruption, cruelty, and manipulation of women. In her office, Molebogeng coordinates with members of Ingwe, a private security agency led by Tiger, to surround the suspected location of Johnny. However, upon arrival, they face resistance from Mr. X, who tries to escape, but is eventually captured by the team. Meanwhile, at Zuko's home, a mechanic, he talks with his stepson, Paka, about plans to surprise his wife, Malime, with a ring and their family's dream of starting a garden. Shortly after, their discussion is interrupted by Johnny's unexpected arrival, carrying evidence that could threaten Matima's candidacy. At that moment, Johnny shows a recent newspaper article highlighting Matima's rising popularity despite corruption accusations against him. Shortly after, Johnny and Zuko, longtime friends, reminisce about their involvement in the Alkebulan movement years ago, initiated by Johnny to fight injustice under Matima's rule. However, Zuko, now settled with a family, wants to distance himself from the cause. While reading the newspaper, Zuko is haunted by memories of his past actions, especially the moment he took a life in front of the victim's son. This guilt leads him to consider leaving Alkebulan behind. On the other hand, Tiger contacts Molebogeng to inform her that they still haven't found Johnny's location. They have detained an unknown man who resisted arrest, causing Molebogeng to feel anxious under Matima's constant pressure. She then instructs her colleagues, Beth and Naledi, to correct the error and track down Johnny's current whereabouts. Meanwhile, Johnny is on the run, leaving a message for Bressler, a journalist whose career has suffered due to Matima's actions. The scene shifts to Matima's home, where Molebogeng assures him of her efforts to capture Johnny. Elsewhere, Zuko enjoys a peaceful morning as he accompanies Paka to school with his wife, Malime. Later, he helps Malime at her souvenir stand in a local market before heading to his job at an automotive company. Meanwhile, at the intelligence office, Naledi and her team use the city's CCTV network to monitor Johnny's movements. Shortly after, they spot him at the Grand Hotel, prompting Beth to send 2 guards to capture him. At the same time, Molebogeng watches Johnny's actions on CCTV and orders her team to follow him closely. Unexpectedly, Johnny, aware of the surveillance, seeks out Zuko at his workplace. He then repeats his request for Zuko to retrieve incriminating documents against Matima and destroy certain Alkebulan records. These documents cannot be presented in court due to judicial corruption orchestrated by Matima. Johnny then directs Zuko to go to Maseru, the birthplace of Alkebulan, and assures him of the villagers' support. Monitoring the situation, Molebogeng tells her team to focus on tracking Zuko, while Tiger and his team deal with Johnny. As Johnny realizes he is being pursued, he drives recklessly until he enters an unfinished overpass. Faced with capture, Johnny decides to do the unthinkable. After that, Molebogeng prioritizes the search for Zuko, where she instructs Beth to gather information on Zuko's identity, and ironically, Naledi, whose real name is Emund, is revealed to be Johnny's ally. The story then shifts to Zuko, who leaves work early to meet Malime at home. Sensing he's being followed, Zuko secretly contacts Malime at the market, informing her of his sudden departure without revealing where he's headed, assuring her he'll be back soon. Meanwhile, Bressler wakes up and listens to Johnny's voicemail, but considers it a joke and ignores it. At the sight of Johnny's death, Tiger's associates examine his body but find only a gun. Elsewhere, Molebogeng's agents tailing Zuko head to Cape Town International Airport, as Zuko plans to go to Maseru. Upon arrival, Zuko finds a locker where Johnny has hidden passports, tickets, and other items. Just before he can check in, Molly-Boging's agents quickly apprehend him. After that, Zuko is taken to an interrogation room and questioned about his plans and the items Johnny gave him. It turns out only a ring is found. Suddenly, Zuko fights back and escapes. Despite Molly-Boging's men being stationed all over the airport, Zuko manages to get away by using a headset he took from one of the agents he incapacitated earlier. Eventually, he successfully avoids capture by pretending to be a passenger on a minibus. In a bar, Bressler overheard the news of Johnny's death, realizing its importance. He listened to Johnny's voicemail again and hurried to his newsroom. There, he instructed his intern, E.B., to gather any available information about Johnny's activities. Meanwhile, at the intelligence office, Beth discovered CCTV footage showing Johnny visiting the former foreign minister, Thandiwe Makeba, before the incident. Beth then told Naledi to inform Molly-Boging about this discovery. However, Naledi secretly warned Thandiwe instead. Unable to fly to Maseru, Zuko took a map and an emergency contact provided by Johnny. He then stole a motorcycle from his workplace and set off on a nighttime journey towards Maseru. At home, Molly-May worried about Zuko, but Paka assured her that Zuko would return safely. Shortly after, their conversation was interrupted when one of Molly-Boging's agents arrived to take Molly-May away, leaving Paka alone. When Molly-May arrived at the intelligence office, she was questioned about Zuko's involvement with Johnny. She had no knowledge of Zuko's connection to Johnny's mission and explained that Zuko's past was a mystery to her, as she had never asked about it. As Molly-May continued to cry, she begged to go back home, worried about Paka being alone. Meanwhile, Molly-Boging, watching the interrogation from a nearby room, was updated by Naledi on Zuko's background. Naledi then disclosed that Zuko, once an orphan who had joined the police force, had been part of a special task force 4 years ago before disappearing. During this conversation, Beth asked Molly-Boging about the connection between Thandiwe and Johnny, as seen in yesterday's CCTV footage. Surprised by the question, Molly-Boging realized that Naledi hadn't shared this crucial information with her. After the discussion, Zuko remembered his first visit to Molly-May's home, where Molly-May was a widow raising her child with care, welcomed Zuko warmly. Paka, focused on a school assignment, drew pictures of animals and farming. Zuko then praised farming as a noble profession, explaining its importance in providing food and building communities. Inspired, Paka expressed a wish to be a farmer, so Zuko gifted him a toy tractor. In the Presidential Intelligence Office, Beth updated Molly-Boging on their progress, stating they had traced Zuko's escape route using a motorcycle and had blocked off all main roads to Maseru. At Bressler's news office, his assistant, E.B., provided details about Johnny's background. She mentioned Johnny's past as a respected lawyer before becoming the director of African International Relations under the previous president, who was succeeded by Matima. However, when Matima took office, Johnny was dismissed, causing his career to crumble. Reflecting on his own struggles, Bressler acknowledged warning about Matima's corruption in his newspaper. He saw this as an opportunity to seek justice and expose the president's wrongdoings, deciding it was time to act. Meanwhile, as Zuko stopped at a gas station to refuel, the attendant secretly informed him that the police had visited an hour earlier. Despite knowing Zuko was on the run, the attendant believed in giving second chances and advised him to take the northern route, since other roads were closed by local authorities. Thankful for the advice, Zuko thanked the attendant and left a small tip as a gesture of gratitude. However, unknown to Zuko, the gas station owner recognized him and promptly alerted the police. In the intelligence office, Naledi brought breakfast to Molly-May in the detention room and revealed that Zuko was her friend, advising Molly-May to be ready. Unaware of surveillance, Beth observed Naledi's actions from the next room. Shortly after, Naledi was caught and interrogated by Molly-Boging. Examining Naledi's phone, Beth found 2 contacts labeled Zenkosi and Umzinjeli, identifying Zenkosi as Thandiwe and Umzingjili as Zuko. Shortly after, one of Bet's colleagues informed Mole Bogang that they had located Zuko. Mole Bogang then ordered her team to eliminate Naledi. Once Malime was freed, they headed upstairs to escape. Naledi then boarded a gondola, urging Malime to do the same. Unfortunately, Malime fell and died. Realizing further action was futile, Naledi fled. Meanwhile, Tiger and his team prepared to intercept Zuko. Tiger stressed the importance of capturing Zuko alive, following Mole Bogang's instructions. Soon after, Zuko approached their location. Luckily, a gas truck passed by, where Zuko shot at it in diverting Tiger and his officer's attention while aiding his escape. Despite Tiger's team pursuing him and firing, Zuko managed to briefly halt their progress by returning fire, hitting their helicopter, and forcing it to retreat. As Zuko continued, his motorcycle malfunctioned due to gunfire damage, forcing him to leave it behind. He then noticed the helicopter preparing to land nearby. Meanwhile, Naledi, feeling guilty about Malime's death, evaded capture. She contacted Thandiwe, revealing their situation. Hearing this, Thandiwe then instructed her to meet Bressler at his office and share any relevant information about Matima. After Malime's tragic death, Mole Bogang realized she had lost her ability to negotiate with Zuko. She then instructed Beth to bring Malime's child, Paka, to the intelligence office. Initially hesitant, Beth eventually agreed, understanding she couldn't challenge Mole Bogang's decision. Meanwhile, in the intelligence office's courtyard, Bressler and his assistant, Ibi, spoke with Neville about Malime's accident aftermath. Bressler sought details about Johnny and Zuko, suspecting a connection to the recent incident. At that moment, Neville could only speculate that someone was hiding evidence. Soon after, Bressler received a call from a woman named Emund, later revealed to be Naledi, inviting him to meet. The story then shifts to Mole Bogang visiting Thandiwe at her home to inquire about her involvement with Johnny and Zuko. Hearing this, Thandiwe remained silent, hinting at Matima and Mole Bogang's impending downfall the following Friday. She also revealed Zuko's ruthless nature as a member of the Alkebulan faction. Threatened by Thandiwe's mention of her father's past affiliations, Mole Bogang reacted violently, killing Thandiwe with a stick to protect her secret. At a cafe, Naledi meets with Bressler and Ibi, revealing that Johnny and Thandiwe are leading efforts to expose Matima's corruption by collaborating with elite assassins. They plan to retrieve evidence stored in Maseru, where Zuko is headed. Their goal is to provide this evidence to Bressler for publication, hoping to bring positive change to the nation. Meanwhile, Zuko tracks down Tiger's helicopter and takes out his subordinates at their base. He confronts Tiger, forcing him to fly to Maseru. After a struggle, Zuko gains control of the helicopter and heads to Maseru. The next morning, Zuko asks the pilot to land in a grassy field near Maseru. Shortly after, local villagers help him reach a forest for medical treatment. This forest is where Zuko first joined Alkebulan with Johnny, Naledi, and others who fought against corrupt officials. After recovering, Zuko meets the tribal chief, who gives him a final message from Johnny. The letter expresses Johnny's regret for involving Zuko again and reveals the location of evidence against Matima. Zuko then destroys the Alkebulan records and keeps the flash drive with Matima's incriminating documents safe. Before leaving, the tribal chief gives Zuko a large ancestral spear believed to ward off evil spirits. Upon returning to the city, Zuko tries to contact Naledi but meets Mole Bogang instead. Suspecting Mole Bogang's involvement, Zuko asks about Malime. Mole Bogang sadly informs him of Malime's death and reveals that her son, Paka, is with them. To keep Paka safe, Zuko must hand over the files containing evidence against Matima. After their talk, Mole Bogang orders Tiger to get rid of Zuko to protect themselves from Matima. The next day, Zuko decides to meet Bressler at a cafe, where Bressler takes Zuko to Naledi's safe house, and she explains the full story of Malime and Paka's suffering. Following their plan, Zuko gives the flash drive with Matima's criminal records to Bressler, who plans to publish them that evening. This coincides with the release of the annual corruption report, when Matima is expected to be cleared due to bribes given to government judges. However, Zuko wants to wait until he finds Paka. Naledi, who knows where Matima is through her connection with Molebogeng, suggests to lure Matima into bringing Paka to his house so they can deal with everyone at once. Shortly after, the plan begins with Zuko sneaks into the villa and quietly deals with some of Matima's guards. Then he confronts Matima and knocks him out. When Matima wakes up, Zuko forces him to call Molebogeng and bring Paka to the villa. At that moment, Matima tries to bribe Zuko with wealth and power, but Zuko refuses, criticizing Matima's greed and lack of care for his people. Soon after, Tiger and his forces from Ingwenya arrive at Matima's villa. Despite their efforts, Zuko manages to evade them, so Tiger focuses on securing Matima and sending his men to find Zuko. After a tense fight, Zuko finds himself in another fight with Tiger. But just as he's about to subdue Tiger, he hears Paka's scream. After that, Molebogeng appears, holding a gun and threatening Paka's life. Zuko stops, putting aside his attack on Tiger and dropping his spear. Matima then steps in, urging Molebogeng to kill Zuko then and there. But instead of obeying, Molebogeng points the gun at Matima, angered by his disrespectful comments about her father's loyalty to the state. With Matima out of action, Molebogeng aims at Zuko, seeing him as a threat because of what he knows. Before she can shoot, Naledi steps in, shooting Molebogeng to protect Zuko and Paka. The next day, news of Molebogeng and Matima's deaths spreads across various news outlets. Bressler's news agency exposes the crimes of Matima's regime. In the aftermath, Zuko decides to leave the city and go back to his hometown with Paka. They plan to start a farm and plantation together, fulfilling Paka's childhood dreams, and the story comes to an end. Moral lesson from the story: if you steal money from a government official, make sure it's not haunted by evil spirits. And if you do get haunted, just start a farm with your stepson and forget about it.